Hello, hello. Hello. My name is CenterSun21 at CenterSun21 on Twitter. And you're listening to Center of the Sun podcast. Welcome. This is the first episode. Thank you for listening. Such a weird feeling to hear your own voice. I'm just like trying to sound like an announcer and I can't quite do it. But this is a podcast about me, I guess. An extension of my extroverted self, I guess. I am a black gay man with a lot of feelings and a lot of opinions and something to say. So thank you again for listening. I want to focus on citizen science. I feel like science is one of those topics that I was always discouraged to pursue. And as an adult, I'm actually pissed because I should have been pushed more to look at the world in a more analytical way. So I invite you on a journey with me to analyze this weird fucking planet. This podcast is called Center of the Sun. Follow me, subscribe. I can be found in all the places in which podcasts are broadcast. Follow me, CenterSun21 on Twitter. And so I want to read some notes to you very quickly before I jump in. And here they go. I sit and I ruminate in a way that feels like I exist in a world separate from everything and everyone. I close my eyes and I stand in darkness. Warm winds, high-powered winds push me and pull me, veiling my face, feeding me energy. I interact with the light emitted from the star above. It feels good. It feels like to have chosen the right life. I can feel my heart beat in my chest. I learn that this is highly problematic. Your heart needs to rest, but it feels good. I feel alive. I open my eyes. A beautiful sight to behold. Green pastures, green expanses of land, fruitful and temperate in weather. People with whom to connect and foster new relationships, but there's also the corruption. And hateful actions of others, the destruction of our sacred planet, the damnation of our own souls, the vaporization of our own bodies, the abandonment of our own minds, the neglect of our own health. You know what I've realized? It is a privilege to be a black gay man. To a degree. That can be argued otherwise, but the world has forced us to be strong. The world mimics our actions. It envies our bodies, and we die oftentimes for nothing at the hands of haters. The normalization of murder is embarrassing and it still bothers me. I have a low level of anxiety because I have to be resolved in being murdered for no reason. I was sheltered as a child. I was not prepared for this. This fucking world. I guess this is first, the convergence of these sets of ideas among so many people. Generations, decades, I don't know. Maybe that's my purpose, just to express myself. Well, Thank you for listening. Has anyone ever thought about the fucking newspapers we read? I don't. But I do subscribe to New York Times. And for the most part, this newspaper does give me what I need in terms of the amount of information that it conveys on a daily basis, or like minute by minute kind of thing. So, and they're against Trump, so why not? So I wanted this podcast to be a reflection of who I was, and or who I was, not who I was, who I am, I guess, because I have been a self-proclaimed citizen scientist for a long time, and it makes sense to put my ideas on paper because what I've gained from my work experience is that I am just that. I'm a verbal processor, and so much that I have to speak what I know in my head in order for it to make sense out loud. So that's why I'm here today, and to talk to you all about ways in which you can incorporate science into your life, because I sure as hell am not a scientist, but it is so fucking cool. I can't even tell you. I was just talking to a friend about breast milk, actually, and the power that the connection between mother and baby. You have no fucking idea how cool that shit is. Breast milk is so fucking cool, but also can transmit infectious diseases. So it has a gift and a curse. So I just want to read to you all. Let's see. So truth is not. Let me see. Truth is not. Everything in the world is subjective. Spirit is not. Divinity resides in our shadow. Truth. Body is not. Celebrate myriad humanity. Let's say that again. Truth is not. Everything in the world is subjective. Spirit is not. Divinity resides in our shadow. Truth. Body is not. Celebrate myriad humanity. Those are my tenets. That is the dream that I'm trying to actualize. And I'm actually using my words very intentionally, and we'll talk about that. So, have you ever heard of the resident microbiota? Stanford resident micro. I saw it on YouTube. Another fucking source for all kinds of information. One thing I was specifically interested in was the resident microbiota. It is a very interesting concept, but Stanford University has a lab called the Sonnenberg Lab. You can find it at sonnenberg.stanford.edu. sonnenburglab.stanford.edu. And it's interesting because last year I was at a conference for work regarding internal medicine. And I sat, for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, because, well, I know why, because I'm an extrovert. And being extrovert is very good for people who go to conferences because literally, like, being in the space creates energy for me. So I feed off of other people's energy. Therefore, lunch is like a crazy time for me to like connect with people, because I value that as a person. And we all were eating lunch, and I sat next to a pediatrician who worked at a children's hospital, pediatric cardiologist, whatever. And she was talking about, for some reason, what stuck to me, I don't remember the conversation or why we were having it in the first place, but what stuck out was my fucking cardiovascular system, talking about the cardiovascular system and me. And to this day, I still am thinking about it because I do kind of have high blood pressure because I'm so worried about everything. But anyway, she said to me, if you can detect and treat heart disease before you're 30, you can regress heart disease. And for a minute, it took me like 45 seconds to like define what regress means. And words, new words that are said to me or like words that I'm unfamiliar with at the present moment, I'll always like kind of in the back of my mind take a recording of what that word is or like write it down because having a stutter growing up as a child forced me to reroute my thoughts and reroute the words I could not say to words I could say. So my vocabulary is very important to me in that way because it is a means of survival. Otherwise, I could not speak without a wide variety of words to with which I can speak and write whatever. So anyway, fast forward or backwards or whatever. So anyway, I'm talking with this pediatrician woman, and she's talking about how you can regress heart disease if you fix it early, specifically by diet and exercise. And of course, everyone fucking knows that. Like, don't eat fucking baconators and go to the gym. Um, so I try not to eat baconators, but I still don't go to the gym, and I still smoke, and I still drink and do bad things. But at the same time, I know to a degree that like my heart is fine, but it's still stuck with me that you can regress because the whole conference was about how we were trying to grow heart cells and we couldn't. And we could maybe do it in like pigs, but then when we tried it in humans, it just like fell apart. Those cells are like the key to whatever fix we're trying to make in terms of cardiovascular health for the public. Because by a certain time in the public, like 2030, like this projected like 60% of people in the United States will have heart disease. And a majority of them will have heart failure. And that's kind of stuff is staggering to me when I'm at these places because it all seems from the standpoint of like a conference seems very easy to judge people and to get high and mighty about behaviors. But at the same time, it got me thinking about more processes within the body and how we as just regular ass people with just like dumb ass shit, diet and exercise can like transform our health, especially if we do it while we're young. Um, and of course, there's always opportunity to fix things and prevent disease at any age, but it's that was particularly stuck with me from a pediatrician standpoint because I am about to turn 30, so it's relevant to me right now, and it feels good time, like a good time to share. So, moving along, I was thinking about the processes within the body, and it got me thinking about another study that was trying to decrease the amount of inflammation that a person who lives with HIV has due to the fact that they once had AIDS. So, as you know, HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus that causes AIDS, the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, it even though it can be controlled by medication and doctors and diet and exercise, your fucking bread and butter to health, literally, or no pun, whatever the fuck I'm trying to say, though, even though we can control the virus and we can control other diseases that have similar effects on the body, we can control that stuff with medication and stuff like that. It's still the human body is so resilient that it always remembers what happened, and it's always as strong as its last whatever failure. So it's always prepared and it's always lit, and the immune system is always, and it comes back with a vengeance, and people are living longer or whatever it is, and they have the ability to actualize their dreams and do all the things that they wanted because of the advances of medication. But at the same time, the human body is in a constant state of inflammation. The body never forgets. And there was another study, and the reason I brought this up was because I read there was another study regarding just trying to see are there general ways to use medications that are already approved for heart disease and stuff like that to reduce inflammation of the heart and stuff like that. Can we use the same medications to stave off inflammation for HIV? So they tried different medications, and they ended up just trying aspirin, just a 5 milligram, blah, 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 whatever, pill of aspirin. And of course, guess what? It didn't work. But that was kind of the reason why they had to, because you have to prove something doesn't work in order to move on to the next step, to prove something new or novel that does work. And that's the good thing about research, is trial and error. You're allowed to fail. Actually, it's encouraged. It's a part of the process. And so I started to think about inflammation of the body and just generally. And, and I don't always agree with everyone's standpoint. I think citizenship, being a citizen scientist is important, because you get to carve out your own methods. That's part of being a scientist. That's what's lit. You get to get your own hypothesis, bitch. All that shit you did in high school and shit is coming all the way back. Anyway, it got me thinking about inflammation. That got me thinking about heart disease. That got me thinking about all kinds of little small changes that I could make. And for some reason I was on YouTube, and I got to this TED Talk or something about the gut microbiota. Ooh, I remember why. So for some reason, I forget why, but I signed up for these emails. I'm like a subscription addict. Not really an addict, but I always sign up for like emails because I love a deal. I love a coupon. And so of course I'm going to sign up for your email if I don't have to spend money. I always have like a dummy email. And I signed up for this email for U Biome. U as in unicorn, B as in boy, I as in Iris, O as in Oprah, M as in mom, and E as in eagle. U Biome. As in like an ecosystem or like a biology thingy. So anyway, sorry, I'm going off topic. Anyway, I got emails for Ubiome, and they're always discounting their products. And basically what you do with Ubiome is that you can take samples of your own biome and sequence your resident microbiota. So basically, there are like trillions of cells in the human body, and only like 1/10 of them, or 10% of them are human, and the rest of them are microbiota, or your resident microbiota is basically just bacteria that we host, and then we give them life and they give us life, and we feed them and they feed us, and they keep the bad things. The human body is fucking crazy. It's resilient. Anyway, the point being is that I got on this rabbit hole of, oh my God, this service is discounted. But I went to work and I asked a pharmacist, and I was like, hey, would you buy this product? Would you sequence your resident microbiota? And she was like, the first thing I would do is I would research. So, bam, fucking rabbit hole of research. The first place I ran was probably like some scholarly articles, and I was like, I don't understand this stuff, and I don't want to talk about bugs or mice, and like I don't really want to talk about how they got to the point. I just want to know what's the point. What's the point of the science, and why would it be beneficial for me to spend $100 or something on a kit, on a poop study, literally a personal poop study? So it got me to a TED Talk or something about the resident microbiota and this research that was funded by this lab called the Sonnenberg Lab at Stanford University. And I'm looking at their website, and they basically aim to just shed light on basic principles around how bacteria interact with our guts, very specifically our intestines, and trying to understand how. And on YouTube, they were talking about how they're understanding a little bit more how inflammation is influenced by a lack of care for our resident microbiota. Wow, that was a point that was like really roundabout. Basically, our diet, our high-fat diet, our American diet, as glorious as it is because I'm starving right now, is not doing anything for a resident microbiota, because the resident microbiota lives at the end of the intestine. A lot of our high-fat food is digested and absorbed or wasted away at the beginning of our intestine. And our intestine is about 25 feet long. All that space, all that time. So there's not enough time and not enough food. So basically, the resident microbiota then feed off of our mucous membrane in our intestine. Oh yeah. But our bodies, our human cells, also need that mucous membrane. They are part of that. They are part of that system. So our bodies are doing double time. And then the resident microbiota are there's a mucous membrane there to separate us, because it's still bacteria, it's still nasty, it's still gross, it's still bacteria. So that barrier being diminished elicits our body's immune response. Do you see the pattern? There's like a pattern, and I'm just like, am I crazy? I don't know. Oh. But it's eliciting an immune response, which elicits inflammation. And then inflammation, I mean, Dr. Sebi and all these people, all these like crazy ass people that like we think are conspiracy theorists and shit, they're kind of like not wrong though. Like the way they go about it, talking about like making it, because it's in the context of white supremacy and da da da. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with the world, but I think shedding light on like the way that the Sonnenberg Lab. So the interview that I saw on YouTube about all of this was basically this doctor being like, yeah, there are these like biomedical ways that we can do it with supplements and like medication. He was like, and she was basically explaining how she did a 30-day study about probiotics and how she introduced these microbiota to her gut and through all different ways of eating and taking supplements. And basically, what the man from the Sonnenberg lab, Sonnenberg, the man, what he said was like, no, we know nothing about this. And literally, just like a fingerprint, everyone's resident microbiota is unique to their exact composition of their body. So therefore, you don't know what microbiota you need. You can't take a supplement. You have to just, it's trial and error. You have to eat. And it kind of blew my mind how dumb his answer was, because it was so simple and dumb at the same time. And he was like, yeah, just like eat like what has microbiota? What would give you, like you would eat like probiotics and stuff. So what do they tell you to eat? Eat yogurt. Okay, duh. But yeah, yogurt, they still add it. So what else could you eat? He's like fermented foods. And I'm like, oh my God, bitch. Like, duh. Duh, 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 duh. Eat fermented foods. Wow. It's that simple. So like cancer and like heart disease, like literally we could still eat bacon with a side of sauerkraut, or like, I'm like, the possibilities are endless. It's crazy. It's so crazy. And all of this science is like, yeah, it's exciting. I invite you all to check it out. Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here trying to browse the New York Times for relevant information in order to share it with a engaged and willing audience. But it's really annoying. God, it's really annoying to see another fucking headline about this administration. It's very saddening to see the extent to which our government is being intentionally diminished by some very evil people. And a lot of people can argue that every single president and every politician in government is probably evil, but this particular set of people is disturbing. I'm reading a headline from the New York Times, maybe released today. What's today? The 20th. So it was released yesterday, May 19th. Headline reads, quote, Trump Jr. and other aides met with Gulf emissary offering help to win election. So I have been watching Rachel Maddow, a late night or evening talk show host on MSNBC. I've been watching her for the good part of the last 10 years. Pretty much ever since Obama was 2008, like ever since then. I can say for the last 10 years, for a solid decade, I've been watching her every single night at 9 o'clock. If she talks about stuff like this, she's been talking about this. Sorry, I keep bumping my mic because I'm like flustered as fuck. Oh my God. She's been talking about these things for the last year, I know, since Trump was elected, because I actually stopped watching her for a while because I was so angry with the news because they misled me and they made me think Hillary was going to be the president, and then she wasn't. And then actually Rachel Maddow, I had to stop watching her because her face on election night told me to go to bed and to not wake up until the morning because it was that sad. So that's what I did, and then everything crashed. Literally, figuratively, personally, externally, all of those things culminated around November the 8th in the year of our Lord 2016, and it was terrible. So I'm reading this article. Trump, is meeting with the Gulf emissary, and it makes no sense why he's still president. But actually, she showed a graphic the other day, or I saw a graphic kind of with the proportions of time that it took federal prosecutors, to complete whatever task they were doing, whether or not they were guilty or not guilty, for the last few presidents. So Clinton, including Clinton, who had the longest run, Trump actually has the shortest run, but the greatest number of indictments against him within 1 year. It's kind of saddening. But this article quotes from the New York Times that the meetings, which have not been reported previously, are the first indication that countries other than Russia may have offered assistance to the Trump campaign in the months before the presidential election. So, end quote. That was terrifying to read. And I'm actually not surprised. Are you surprised? Because I actually think we're right on topic. We're right on target for the purpose, and we are being made a mockery across the world. At least, we knew we weren't shit, but at least we could be like, but we're better than you, bitch. Now we can't even say that, so now we're just not shit, and now it's not fun anymore. There's something about it that was fun, I can say now. Something real bougie about being an American prior to Trump. And now I feel really cheap. Like, this is really sad. And I actually want to send my heart out to everybody across the world, because we're all suffering at this point. Moving on. All right, so I am CenterSun21. You can follow me at CenterSun21 on Twitter. Thank you for listening. I want to invite you to hear me out. And I try not to be long-winded, but that's just how I am. And I often sit and I ruminate. And that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, was because I often find myself talking to myself in a way that feels like I exist in a world that's separate from everyone and everything. And when I do that, I close my eyes and I can just imagine myself standing in darkness. But not like a bad darkness, like a warm breeze, like a darkness, but there's a warm breeze in there, imagine yourself closing your eyes and standing in your headspace, but there's a warm breeze. But high power, but you can control it to be high powered or whatever, high power winds or warm breeze, whatever. They push and pull, they veil your face, they feed you energy, they interact with light that's emitted from your body, and or stars that are from above, or whatever light source there is, and it feels good. It feels like I've chosen the right place when I'm in that, when I'm thinking like that. And I can feel my heartbeat. It's radiating through my chest. And I learned that this way of thinking, how I am. I call myself a citizen scientist. It can be problematic at times, and I realize that. And in my heart beating out of my chest, and me always feeling like there's something to know, there's more to know, that can hurt your body over time, because you're stressing yourself out for no reason. And your heart needs to rest, but it feels good, and it makes you feel alive, and you open your eyes. A beautiful sight to behold. Green expanses of land, fruitful and temperate weather. People with whom to connect and foster new relationships. But there's also the corruption and the hateful actions of others. The destruction of our sacred planet, the damnation of our own souls, the vaporization of our own bodies, the abandonment of our own minds, the neglect of our own health. It's a privilege to be a black gay man. The world has forced us to be strong. The world follows our every word, mimics our Every action envies our bodies. We die for nothing most times. It's embarrassing. The normalization of murder, still, it bothers me. I have a low level of anxiety because I have to be resolved in being murdered for no reason. I was sheltered as a child. I was not prepared for this. I guess this is a first. The convergence of these sets of ideas among so many people, generations